Alright, now once we have the skin done, let's get started with the eyes. So I was kind of debating whether I should start off with the hair or the eyes, but I guess it doesn't really matter anyway. So anyways, let's get started. So since her eyes are going to be rather gold, I am starting off with these colors. So I'm starting off with a yellow for a more orangey, not really orangey, but for more intense yellow, I'm going to choose golden yellow. Then I'm going to have light, actually no, it's this one. I want to choose mango. And then for some darker darks, I want to choose my harvest gold, which will be a darker kind of color. I'm going to still choose my tan, and then I'm going to choose my light brown, and then my dark brown. So these will be the colors that I will be using for the eyes. Now I'm going to zoom in once again. Whoops. I'm going to zoom in once again just so you guys can see how I do my process. It's similar to everything else that I've done. So let's first start off with our lightest lights, which is going to be our yellow. So if you want, you can go ahead and outline where you want the highlights to be. For this case, since we're going to be using our gel pen for this later, I'm not going to really need it for now. So first I'm going to just color this. Actually, let me color everything in here white first, just so we have a base color. Now let's go with our yellow. So press pretty lightly. Actually, since this is a pretty light color, you can press a little bit harder if you want. So once we have our base done, we can go ahead and start putting in some darker darks. Not really darker darks, but more like just more intense yellows for a nice gradient. So I'm going to be using my golden yellow, and I'm just going to be coloring in the tops. And then as it goes down to halfway, I'm going to stop and do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to color the top area here. And I'm going to stop around halfway. That will give a nice kind of startup ombre. Then I'm going to choose my mango, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Just going to go ahead and press pretty hard now because we're working with multiple colors now. If you want, you can even hint at our pupil, the pupil area here. So press pretty hard so the color can come through. If you want to add a more intense orange, whoops, you can do that as well. So I'm going to take my orange here, and I'm just going to be coloring this part in really, really lightly, just the tops, so we can see where the gold is. So some people mistaken orange to be the darker version of yellow. That's not always going to be the case. Orange is just a redder yellow. It's red and, of course, it's red and yellow mixed together. So it's not a dark color for the yellow. Brown is actually what's the darker value, because let's say if you go on Photoshop, for example, and you go on your orange, there's a little color bar, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like as it gets darker. And as it gets darker, it turns more into a golden brown or a orangish brown, or whichever it is. So browns are the ones that are for lighter colors. Let's see. Oh, this is good. Dark brown. I will use that as well. So I'm going to choose a darker tone, which will be my tan first, because that is, we're going step by step here. We're not, going super intense right now. We're just layering the colors in. So I'm just going to be using my tan to, mark where my pupils are. I'm also going to use that as a little outline for the eyes as well, just to kind of seal it in. So rather than just using, all yellow, I'm using it dark to kind of draw a little outline, and that will just make it a little bit more 3D looking. So once I have my tan, then I'm going to have my harvest gold, and I'm just going to be doing the same thing. I'm just going to make it darker and darker, while continuing to make sure that the gradient is smooth. So as you can see, it's starting to progress pretty nicely. I'm not touching the light area, because if I touch the light area, then everything will get darkened. So keep your values separate. What's dark is dark and what's light is light. Now I'm going to use a brown. Let me use my light brown here first. And I'm going to just trace in the areas that I want to be darkened, such as the pupils and the top. So it's starting to, look pretty nice now. Now I'm going to use my brown. This is my regular brown, and I'm just going to be coloring in the tops of the eye really, really dark. And I'm going to also leave out a highlight just in case, because when I put a gel pen in, I don't want it to be too dark and then have the white not show because it's too dark. So I'm going to, reserve a little pocket for that. So far, so good. And then I'm going to get my dark brown, and I'm going to press really, really hard now around the top areas here. Just only a little bit. I'm not going to cover the whole thing with a dark brown. Just the very, very top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in the darker darks of my pupil. And that's what it looks like. So that's how you would do eyes. And I'm going to add a little bit more pigment around this area here, just because I feel like it needs it. It needs a little bit more pigment here. So I'm going to add a little bit more oranges. Add a little bit of some lines here just to kind of show that, we have some details in the eyes. And we're going to add a little bit of this tan. Once again, to kind of seal off the rest of the eye here. And if you want, you can even go with your black. Let me find where my black is. Where did it go? Is this black? No, that's gray. Where did my black go? Oh, there it is. I'm going to use just a very, very tiny bit of black just to emphasize some areas like, the top. And that'll be pretty much it for the eyes. Now, if you want it even darker, you can use a pen and just draw in the darkness just a little bit. Just use it as an accent, don't use it for the whole thing. There. And that'll just pop it out a little bit more. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my gel pen, which is somewhere here, my white gel pen, and then I'm going to once again add in my highlights. So my highlights will be where I put it here. I'm going to use my white and I'm going to fill that in here. And because it's on a light surface, the white will show really nicely on top. I'm also going to add a little bit of a highlight down here as well, just for some good measure. And then along the sides where the black is here. So that makes it a little bit shinier. I'm also going to add a little bit of darkness around the highlight just so it's not, so we can see it better. So I'm going to add around the corners of where the highlight is. So you can see it better. Alright, so that is it for the eyes. If you wanted to color in the eye whites, go ahead and take let me see what this is, a sand or a gray. Actually, let's take a top color, because that's kind of like a warm gray here. And we're going to lightly shade in the tops of the eyes for the eye whites. Just very, very lightly. And that'll be it for the eyes. So I'm going to add a little bit more darkness or more intensity of color around the top of the eyes here because I feel like it needs a little bit more. I'm going to use a dark brown, or my brown here. This is my brown. I'm just going to color this in. There. So that'll be it for the eyes. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.